One. Sounds good. So, yeah, my name is Sam Pope. I'm from PCOE Tech Services. I am a systems and applications specialist. So what that means, it's just kind of a vague term because I have an odd set of responsibilities here. I administer the Google instance, so all the G Suite apps, all the Chromebooks, all the student and employee accounts, stuff like that. I do some other things as well, managing Canvas and Go Sign Me Up. And also, I am the head trainer here at IT. So glad you could all make it. And we're going to dive into Google Classroom in just a minute here. And let's see if I can just share this. We'll get right into it. There we go, screen one. All right, so you'll see my head turn to the side here. Actually, to make this a little less awkward, maybe I can move my camera over to the screen I'm sharing. Cool. All right. So we'll move on right here. I'm using Google Slides actually to present. So you see this little weird pointy thing going here. So Google Classroom, what is it? So we can say it's an online space for classroom workflow. So your typical workflow of assigning work to students, the students do the work, the students turn in the work, and then you grade the work and return it back to the students. That's typical workflow. There's also some functionality for discussion and asking questions and posting materials and things like that. And so all this can be done online. Google Classroom was created actually as a supplement, not a replacement for in-classroom instruction. However, that's what this means here, not a complete learning management system. What is considered a complete learning management system would be things like Canvas or Blackboard. If you've taken any online classes at a university, you've probably encountered those. But in recent months, Google Classroom has added some new features. The biggest one was Google Meet to allow for video conferencing. It's getting pretty close to a learning management system if it's not quite there yet. Another thing I wanted to point out here is Aries integration. Not a lot of people know about this, but Aries, our student information system, does push data into our G Suite instance, and it is possible to link a classroom in Google Classroom to a course in Aries. So auto-populate the courses in your Google Classroom, auto-populate those courses with the students that are on your roster, and there's even a way to link the gradebook. So if you score student work in Google Classroom, you can push that, you can import those scores into your Aries gradebook so you don't have to type all the scores twice. So that's something that we implemented in the last few months. I'm not sure how many people know about it yet, so I thought I'd let everybody know. Some of the limitations, PCOE are whitelisted domains only. If you have students that are not part of a PCOE school or not enrolled in one of the domains that we have a whitelist with, then we're not going to be able to reach those students until we basically whitelist their domain if possible. I don't know off the top of my head all the domains that are whitelisted. I know Roseville City, Roseville Joint Union High School, I think Loomis, and I think Placer Union High School District are some of the ones that are whitelisted. So you should be able to add students manually. Obviously Aries isn't going to integrate those students, so you'd have to manually add them to your classroom. Those should work, but if you have a student at a domain that you can't add to Google Classroom, you can let me know, and we can talk to their IT department, see if we can get a whitelisting thing going with them. Another limitation, emailing from Google Classroom doesn't work. We'll probably see that in the demonstration pretty soon here. The reason is it relies on Gmail, and Gmail is not enabled for anyone at PCOE. We use Microsoft Exchange for that. So if you need to email your students, the best way to do that would be from Aries. Finally, proctoring exams is hard. This is just true in general. And so it's equally true on Google Classroom. There are some features that allow you to lock the screen if they're using a managed Chromebook, but in our current environment, we can't guarantee students are using one of our Chromebooks. They could be using any computer, and we can't lock down a computer that isn't ours. So classroom demonstration, we're going to get into this. Just want to point out in this slide deck, both the PDF version and the slides version, this is actually a link. And let me show you what this links to. This is actually a Google Doc, a digital cheat sheet. And each of these little guys here is an animated GIF. So you just click on it. Give the GIF a chance to load. Animated GIFs do take a little while, but they're worth the wait. And so you can just watch me, a recording of me. There's no audio here, it's just it's only visual. There it goes. Creating a classroom. So so this is your digital cheat sheet. All of these things have a little GIF attached to them, all of these links. Some of this we might not get to in this presentation, but that's cool. It's pretty straightforward. You probably want to start at, if you're new to Forms, for example, you've never used it, you can just start at the top and work your way down to get to more detailed stuff. Oh, cool! I see some of you guys checking it out.
Yeah, the link is in your chat.
Awesome. All right, I'll go ahead and close that out. And so I'm just going to do these things live now on the computer. I could probably answer quick questions that come through. More involved questions we probably want to save till later, the Q&A. All right, let's see here. I'm going to move this aside. And the first thing we'll be doing is creating a classroom. Well, actually, first let's get to Google Classroom. How do you get there? Classroom.google.com is the easy way to go. If you're logged into Google, you can probably just click on your waffle. It'll be up here somewhere and hit the classroom icon. Got to use your PCOE Google account to get in there. So to create a class, once we're in a Google Classroom, we get into our main screen where it's going to have all of our classes. We want to make a new one. We just click on the plus sign here. You got two options, join a class or create a class. Give it a name. The rest of these are optional. And then just hit the create button. It takes a few seconds. It's got to do a lot of things in the background. Create the class. It's got to create a folder in your Google Drive and some subfolders and do a lot of stuff in the background. So here we go. So the next thing you probably want to do is put some people in your classroom. You've got four main tabs here. These are always, when you go to a class, these are the four tabs you're usually going to see. They do go away when you, for example, go into classwork and you're into an assignment. You might get popped out of that. You won't see these. You can always just click on My Class to get back to this main screen here. So let's add some people here. You can add teachers, co-teachers, and you can add students. I'm going to add a couple students here. Got a test student. So we're going to also go over the class code. This is sort of the push method of adding a student. So when you invite a student this way, they get sent an email saying you've been invited. And then when they log in, I'll bring up a student screen here. When they go into Google Classroom from their Chromebook or from wherever, let's see, this is the one I just created. You can decline or join. So I'll just go ahead and join. All right, so now we have a student in that class. And if we refresh this, that invited thing should go away. Yeah, so now that student is in there. The other way to get people in your classroom, if you notice back on the Stream tab here, we have this class code. If you click on this display, this is designed for, you're using a projector in the classroom, but you could also use it over Zoom or Meet or Teams or whatever. And then what they do is, you remember back when we created the classroom, there was also the join option. You go into Google Classroom, the students would go to join, they punch in this code, and then they can get in the classroom that way. All right, I'll make this go away here. Okay, so that's adding people there. Let's see what's next. Create an assignment. Assignments are all sort of here in the classwork page, classwork tab. They do show up in the stream. The stream is the default. When you go into Google Classroom, you see the stream. This is basically a timeline, like a Facebook feed or a Twitter line. The new stuff's up on the top. The older stuff gets pushed down. This is the whole stream right here. There's nothing really in here, but there is a shortcut to share certain things if you like. All right, so in the Classroom tab, we'll just create an assignment here. We've got these other options. We're just going to do the top one, create an assignment. So we'll call it first assignment. And an optional place for instructions. We can add some files here if we want, or video, or links. We can create a Google Doc. We're doing a session on Google Docs next. So you can create a doc to attach to this assignment in your Google Docs as well. You can actually change classes here if you wanted to assign this to a different class. All students is the default. If you want, you can uncheck that and just assign it to certain students. You can just use check marks to assign it to individuals. I only have one student in here right now, so that's the only option I really have. You can give it a point assignment, or you can set it to ungraded, so there's no score involved. Option for a due date here. We'll make it due tomorrow. And then topics here, there are no topics. You can create a topic. A topic is basically just a category. You might want to use those for big projects, or maybe if your curriculum is divided into units and you want all your assignments kind of collected into a certain unit name, you can just create a topic for that, and then the assignment will be in that category. Lastly, we have a rubric here. This one gets a little more involved, but you can create a rubric. You can reuse a rubric that was from another assignment, and you can import a rubric from Sheets that was exported. You'd probably use that last one if you had a class maybe last semester or last year or a few years ago. You exported the rubric and you want to import it into this one. So check plagiarism. This is a sneaky little marketing thing that Google has slipped in there. It sounds really cool. Hey, let's check some plagiarism. When you learn more, You see the documentation here. We've got some limitations. You can run 3 reports on an assignment. You can use 3 assignments per class. So there are some limitations. Why the limitations? Because they want you to bug your IT department to pay up money for G Suite Enterprise, which costs money. Then those restrictions are lifted. So feel free to play around with it, but yeah, it's going to have some limitations. You're not going to be able to check everybody's paper every time. All right, so let's see, what do we want to do here? While we're at it, I wonder if we can just add a little rubric to this assignment. Actually, what do we want to do? Let's create a rubric here. So you've got a criterion title and a criterion description. This one is required, and this one is not, but I'll just put something in here. And then you've got your levels and your descriptions here. So I'll just put in, you know, obviously this isn't a real rubric, but it should demonstrate the concept. Okay, the assignment, the work. And then to create another item with more points, we can click here, we can, you know, enter a number there. Add another level here. All right. So this is just one criterion. We can add criterion here, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll leave it like this. It'll automatically sort descending. We can change it to ascending if you want to go that way. And then use the scoring as an option, actually. So if you didn't want to actually attach scoring to the rubric, that would be an option as well. I'll go ahead and save this. And let's see. I'm gonna, let's see, give this an actual purpose here. All right, everything else looks good. So before I assign this, I want to point out this little arrow right here. If you click on that, you can assign, you can schedule this so it'll assign later. It won't pop up on people's feed right away. If you don't want it showing up on the feed, on the stream until say like on Monday or whatever, we can schedule it. We can save a draft if we want to do some editing before we actually post it. And then discard draft is basically going to erase all this and go back to the main screen. I'll just go ahead and assign it. And there you go. So there's our assignment. We can take a quick look at it. We can edit it or delete it. We can copy a link and post it somewhere else if we want to. And also, if you go to the stream over here, you'll see that assignment has been added to the stream. If we look up the student view real quick, well, what they'll see is because the student's been logged in the whole time, the stream was updated while they were logged in. So now they see that it's there. Also over on the left, they see that due Friday, this assignment's due on Friday. And then the student can click on that. They can see the rubric. they can see the instructions and do the work that way. Let's see. I'll move this out of the way real quick. All right, up next, take a look at another type of assignment here called the quiz assignment. This one's relatively new. And hang on a sec here. Bear with me while I pull up some documentation. I need this. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so what is a quiz assignment? It's basically a quiz that also you're going to attach points to, or you could attach points to, and then that'll be part of the gradebook as well. You can integrate Google Forms quiz with this very, very easily. So let's see, what do we call this? The questions 3. So this option right here, locked mode on Chromebooks, if you turn this on, if you're in a classroom and the students are all using PCOE managed Chromebooks, this is going to lock their Chromebook so they can't open up other tabs or other apps on their Chromebooks. In this environment, obviously, we can't guarantee that they're going to be using one of our Chromebooks, so it's probably not really effective right now. But that's something you might want to be aware of when, you know, if things ever do get back to that normal, if and when, you'll be able to use that. So if I click on this, actually, this is going to open up a an empty quiz here. And I'll just paste here. So I'm just giving it a quick title. Give my first question. It automatically decided that that was going to be a short answer. And then so what they'll see is that answer key. You can click on that and type in the correct answer. Obviously, this is just a demonstration because everybody's going to put in a different name. You can choose to mark other answers as incorrect, and you can give it a point value. You can also decide if this is required or not. And we'll add another question here. We'll also make that one a short answer. And I'll just leave the answer key blank on that. But I'll give it a point value. Add another question here. Oh, it's jumping around on me. Come back. Come back. What's going on? Let me try a quick refresh here. All right. Things got a little weird for a second. We'll do short answer there. I think that's right. I haven't Googled it recently. Make that 5. Done. Okay. So that should be good enough there. Everything's auto-saved. You'll notice it's telling me all changes saved in Drive. There's no save button here that I can even use. It's just automatically saving in the background. I don't think I need to use any of these other options. We might cover Google Forms in more depth later on here, but for now, that's good. Now, even though this says blank quiz, it's now that questions 3 thing that is linked to it. It's worth 15 points. We'll assign it to this class, all students. We'll give it a due date. Let's make it due today, and we can actually add a time as well if we want. Make it due at 3 o'clock p.m. Oops, why did it say tomorrow? Today. There we go. No rubric, we don't need to check plagiarism. We'll just assign this one right away. Okay, so if we check on our stream, now we've got another thing added to our stream. The upcoming box has been updated. The things that are coming up the soonest are on top, and then it goes in chronological order from there. All right, back to classwork. We got a couple other things that that you might want to be interested in, that you might be interested in. One is the question. So a question is basically just a question that's going to get posted to the stream, and students can just type in their answer right there. You can attach documents and videos and stuff like that, but usually this is just sort of a quick little question, one way to gauge, participation, see who's tuned in, checking in on their classroom regularly. So we can just ask, what is your favorite food? It's going to try to predict. Short answer there. Instructions are optional. 100 seems like a lot of points. Let's just make it 10 points. We got a couple options down here. Students can reply to each other. You might want to turn that off. By default, it's on. Students can edit their answer. So that means is after they turn in their answer, can they go back and change it? That's off by default. And again, we've got the familiar schedule, save draft, discard, or just ask it right now, which I'll do. Okay. So if we look at our stream, now it's updated with that as well. Posted a new question. What's your favorite food? Let's take a look at the student's view here to see, get an idea of what they're going to see. So I'll just refresh this. So their timeline's been updated here. We've got the 3 assignments. If we go to their classwork tab, we see all this. We didn't put a due date on this. That's why it didn't show up on the timeline. But let's click on that question. We'll view it. And so over here is where I would type my answer. What is your favorite food? Of course, the only correct answer is bacon. We'll turn that in. And they're just warning me I won't be able to change it. Is that your final answer? Yeah, I'm going to turn that in. I can also add a class comment. Let's go back to the teacher view here. So we go over to classwork. I go to my question. It's now showing me that one was turned in. I can click on that. It's going to show me that Stuart didn't turned it in. I can grade it. We'll get into grading in just a second here, but we'll go back to, oh, and notice my tabs went away. So to get back to those main 4 tabs, I'll just click my class. Back to classwork, there's a couple more things to take a look at here. One is material, which you might find yourself using a lot. So let's see. So material, I forgot to describe it. Material is basically where you're going to post materials that are not going to be graded. They're just resources for the students to use to support their classwork. So it can be handouts, it can be a link to content, videos, text, images, whatever. So let's say I want my students to read a poem before a Google Meet discussion for tomorrow's Meet discussion. And so what I'll do is I'll just grab my link here. Bear with me. Let's say we're over here. Got good old Invictus. We'll just copy that link. We're going to add the link here. And I'm going to paste it. Again, which class, which students, and if I want to put that in a category. No grading stuff here. Again, this is just for resources and materials. This stuff isn't going to be graded. I'll go ahead and post this right now. Go back to the stream. We've got the new material is posted. Got the instructions and the link. Click on the link. Takes us there to the poem. Student view is pretty much exactly like that. Okay, let's see what's next here. We've done a question, we've done material. Let's look into grading the assignment here. So I'm going to actually move out of this class to a demo class where I've already got some work posted, and we can look at grading. So let's go over here. So we also have a couple of students that have actually turned stuff in, so we can look at that. Oh, what are we going to look at here? Grade the question. There's our question. So we got 2 students in this class. Stuart's in here and Abigail's in here. Abigail has turned it in. It's been assigned to Stuart, but he hasn't turned it in yet. So there's a score already in here. So what you would typically see is that there'd be a blank out of 10. So for this question, I see her name. I can see her answer there. Her answer is yellow, and I can choose to give her some points for that. So notice this says draft. So what that means is it's a draft score. It's not an official score. The student can't see this score right now. So if I change this score to a 6, I don't need to worry about any freakouts because the student never saw the 10, they never saw the 6. It's they don't see anything yet. So when the score is finalized and you want them to see it, you click return. When you return it, they will know. They'll be able to check it. And you can also add a comment here if you want to add a little comment to the student. They will see that comment as well. It's a private comment. Only that student will see that comment for that assignment. So now she falls down into the graded category. And she'll see it when she logs into Google Classroom. She'll now see that score. I want to know if, I'm not sure if there's a way to undo any of that stuff, but yeah, I think that's pretty much finalizes everything there. So that's grading an assignment, or that was actually technically grading a question, but grading assignments would go similarly. Grading a rubric is a little bit different. So this was the write your name on a Google Doc and turn it in assignment. 2 people have turned it in. Here's our rubric. Let's take a look. So Stuart and Abby both turned this in. Here's our assignment here. This this will actually open things up in your Google Drive. Let's start with Stuart. If we want to start scoring these using our rubric, we just click on it. And we see the student work. This is the Google Doc that Stuart made and then turned it in, attached for his assignment, for his work. Up here, we've got some navigation. We can move on to the next student here. Over to the right, we've got our score. We can just punch in a number here, but this is a rubric, so we've got our rubric is automatically loaded, and we can click on the criteria here and click on one of these, and it's automatically going to put the points up here. So let's give this a score. Well, we got to say this one's not a name. We'll go down to the next criteria, legibility. Give them a 5 for legibility. And let's see, name only or extraneous content. I'm going to call this extraneous. So all those points have been added up and totaled into the grade. So if I click this, it's going to return just this score, just student score for the first assignment. And it's going to have, he's going to see the rubric with these things selected. And again, we have, you know, a place for our private content, private comments. We can click on this. I'll go say okay to that because I don't really want to change it right now. And to see the next student's work and go through the rubric again, we'll give her all 5s, of course. And then once we're done with that, we'll return. This will go back to Abby, and she'll see that. Once again, just want to reiterate, if you don't click return, student doesn't see it. You can still change it, but when you're ready to, and it'll show up as a draft score on your end, the student's not going to see anything on their end. They'll just say, they'll see the assignment, they'll see that it's turned in, and that's pretty much it. How are we doing on time here? Okay, doing just fine. Importing quiz scores. See if we can do that. Don't know if I set that up in the demo here. So if we go to classwork, got the questions 3, view the assignment. Abby took her quiz. She's got a draft score in there already. It looks like I was playing around with that. But see if we can import this stuff. There we go. So this is the button I was looking for. So when you have a quiz assignment, you have this little button up here that says import grades. When you click on it, it just makes sure you want to do it. What it's going to do is, remember back when we created this quiz, we had correct answers and point values for all the questions. So those get automatically tallied in the background on the form, but they stay on the form. And what we're doing is, if we import these scores, it's going to take that data that's in the form and it's going to put it here in the gradebook. So instead of looking at the form on one screen and then punching them in the gradebook on another screen, It's just going to copy all that data, move it right into your grade book. And then there'll be draft scores, of course. You can return it there. There's also this return button. It's grayed out. When it's not grayed out, I think it's because there's just one student that has it. When it's not grayed out, you can actually turn in scores for everybody with one click. You don't have to manually click each student and turn it in. Okay, email selected students. Just a reminder, this won't work. I can't click on it right now. Actually, I can if I click. Oh, that's why it was grayed out there. All students. I can return everything for everybody at the same time. I could try to email the students. Oh no, emailing students from Google Classroom doesn't work. Please do not contact me for access. I cannot give you access, unfortunately. You'll have to use Aries to email your students. Sorry about that. Okay, last but not least, and I see the chat lighting up, so I can't wait to get in there and see what's going on. The generating the Classroom Meet link. Let's go back to the class I just created here. So when you first create a class, you're going to see this generate Meet link thing right here. When you click on that, it's going to tell you a little bit about what happens next. Add Meet to your class. With Meet video meetings, you can connect with students for distance learning. You can manage Meet in your class settings. Generate a Meet link. So what this is doing is creating sort of a permanent Meet for your Google Classroom, but it's a special kind of Meet. It's a Google Classroom Meet. And there are some special features, not really features, but let's maybe call them restrictions that you won't find in a run-of-the-mill Google Meet. I'll go ahead and save this. And now the Meet is there. So when Meet was first made available to folks, this didn't exist. And basically you just went to meet.google.com, you created a Meet, and then students would all join the Meet. You'd post a link, probably you'd post a link right in here in Classroom. They'd click on it, they'd get into the Meet. So everything was great until the Meet was over, and the teacher would leave the Meet, but the students would stay in. Or even if the teacher was the last one out of the Meet, the students had the link, and they could just go use that link to start the Meet up again, meet up with the other students without any supervision, using a link they got from their school website. So not an ideal situation. So that's what makes this Google Meet special, is when you are the last one out of this Meet, students cannot start it up. So if you're the first one in, make sure you're the last one out. Students will not be able to use this without your presence and supervision. So it's generally best practice to use this rather than the other ways you can get to a Google Meet. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I don't know if this is going to be weird with Zoom going on at the same time, but I'll go ahead and give it a try. What the heck? And start a Google Meet. This is what you should see. Yeah, camera's failing, probably because Zoom is using it. And then, so the Meet hasn't started quite yet. This is just sort of my test screen. Here's my Meet nickname. You shouldn't have to use that. When you click Join Now, you see this. Now the Meet has started. I can toggle my audio or video here. Oops, that wasn't it. I can toggle my audio and video here. This is actually the hang up thing. So turn off my audio. My video is not going to work right now. There's a Meet chat in here. If you click on this little thing over here, you can see settings. The chat is right over here. So you'll see the other students as they join the meet. There, you can also pull people in this way as well. Close that to make that go off to the side. Shortcut to the chat there. The time and a way to share your screen right here. You can click on that if you want to do some screen sharing. So when your meet is over, just hop on over here, make sure everyone is gone before you leave. And then when everybody else is gone, you go ahead and leave and they cannot join the meet after that unless you're in there. Okay, so looks like we've covered the classroom and the meet stuff. Since we have a couple minutes, we can also take a little look at Google Forms just to get more of an idea, because you might find yourself using Forms quite a bit in conjunction with Google Classroom. I'll just click on my waffle over here. There it is. So I'll show you some of the features here. You can attach a form to any classroom assignment or materials or what have you. It's not just for quizzes. You can also use them for, for example, surveys and things like that. Again, you've got these different question types. I want to show you a couple of other question types. Might want to have a choose all that apply sort of thing here. It automatically changed over to check boxes. So if you add more options, what that looks like is I can select more than one of these. I want to close this. There we go. Another thing you might want to use is something like the multiple choice grid, especially if you want to do something like a Likert scale. You know, the, what is it, strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree, and just put choose an answer. So what that looks like for anyone, the question, I didn't change the question here, but you could choose one of these as well. So it's another question type that you might find yourself using. Some other options here, limiting to one response. So if you don't want people to be able to go back into your form, let's say it's a survey or a poll, you don't want someone going in and spamming your poll with a lot of responses to get the one they want. If they're, say, like they're voting for something, you can limit to one vote per account. Collect email addresses. This is something you might use a lot with your forms. So it'll collect the recipient's email address so you can see who answered what. If you want it to be anonymous, obviously you should turn that off. But if you don't want it to be anonymous, that's a handy thing if you need to maybe contact that person with some follow-up questions for how they responded, or if you want to do some other process in the background. Let's see. Another thing I didn't really talk about was the requiring a response. So again, for like surveys, or if you're just gathering data from students and maybe a question doesn't need an answer, but another one does, like what is your name? You can require it. They won't be able to submit the form unless they answer that question. Let's see, anything else that we wanted to do? We can change a form to a quiz, actually. Just go right over to quizzes, make this a quiz. And once you make it, you can actually then just import it into an assignment in Google Classroom. So if you wanted to, you can make the quiz first, then go into Classroom, attach it that way. I don't think there's anything important there that we need to see. So sending your form. So let's say this was some sort of a survey or whatever. You can click send and you are given these options. The default is email. So if you just want to send it to 1 or 2 people, this will probably be what you want to do. But if you're sending it out to a bunch of people, you're probably going to want to use this link option right over here. You can click on copy. It's going to copy it to your clipboard. And let's just say we wanted to, post the link to our classroom. I just Control V, pasted that link in there. And so then they can go in, when you click on the link, it'll take them right to that survey. This option you're probably not going to use. This is embed. So if you want this to show up inside a web page, you can use this iframe tag in the HTML. And that way they don't actually click on a link for it to open another window. It'll just be right in there, excuse me, embedded in the web page. There's one more thing that might be a little bit tricky I want to point out for you guys. If you click on this, add collaborators, you can actually have multiple people working on a form. This can kind of get confusing with sending the form. Sending the form basically sends it for other people to fill out the form. Adding collaborators shares it with people so they can help you edit the form itself. So if you're working on a team and you want to send out a survey, you're all kind of brainstorming questions and you're all working on this form trying to get it dialed in. So basically collaborating together on this form, you can add people this way and then they'll show up on their drive. They can come on in here and add questions, delete questions, whatever they need to do. Let's see, viewing responses. There are no responses here, but if we click on this, we can see the responses here. If we want to turn this form off so that clicking on the link will take them to a page that says, sorry, you can't, this form is closed right now. You could turn that off so it's not accepting responses. So if there's a time frame on your survey or whatever, and once the deadline comes around, you can come in, turn that off so people can't continue to respond to the form. And last but not least, we've got creating a spreadsheet. What this will do is create a spreadsheet with the responses, add it to your Google Drive. And it's going to have each column here is a question. The rows are going to be each individual answer. So one scenario might be is, let's say you're taking a survey, it's not anonymous, you're collecting their email addresses. You're going to get a timestamp of when they answered. You're going to see their email address. So you might want to drag down, grab everybody's email address, email them some follow-up questions, so on and so forth, that sort of thing. All right, let me, I think that's pretty much it as far as our crash course in Google Classroom. So I'll go ahead and take a look at the chat here. And let me unshare my screen. All right, let's get this going over here. So I think is now when we enter the Q&A portion. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think Steve was just kind of talking a little bit about how maybe he could use it, but if there's other questions or maybe, I think obviously you present a lot of the technical part. Maybe some teachers may want to discuss a little bit how they could actually implement it in their classroom. I don't know.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm going to post inside the chat just some extra the links for the resources. So people have those as well. So if anybody has any questions.
I really don't have any questions right now, but I just want to say top marks for the Monty Python reference.
Thanks.
Sam, I have a question. It's Kathy.
Hi.
Hi, when is, I know we didn't talk about Canvas too much, but I'm trying to figure out what the better platform to use is, Canvas or Google, or can you use both? Like,
can't-
I know iCare is going to be using Canvas this year, I think.
I think they have plans, yeah.
I don't know what's the better platform to use.
It depends on your situation and your needs. Canvas is a true learning management system. It's going to have some features that aren't in Google Classroom. The question is, do you need those features? The main difference is actually one of scale. Canvas and Blackboard are designed for really big institutions with hundreds of teachers and professors, thousands of courses that need to be managed. So there's it's just working on a much bigger scale. It allows you to integrate other apps into it. Google Classroom is just kind of a standalone thing. You can integrate the other G Suite apps like Docs and Sheets and Forms, as we saw, into it. But if you wanted to, say, integrate Microsoft Teams with your Google Classroom, you could post links and stuff like that, but you're not really going to get any functionality built in with that. So if you need some of that functionality, I would say go to Canvas. But if you don't, then Classroom is probably going to be easier for students to use, especially if they've got a Chromebook. It's just kind of built right in there. It's pared down. If there's something that it doesn't do that Canvas does, then I'd say go for it. I will say the learning curves are quite different. I've pretty much shown you about 75% of what you'll do, maybe even more, in Google Classroom. Canvas is a much steeper learning curve, so you're going to want to give yourself several days to invest in learning about it.
Well, I've been trained in it before, so I feel comfortable in using it. I just didn't know which would be better for our kids, and but because we use like Microsoft Teams, so is it better to use the Google Meets instead of the Microsoft? Like I'm confused with all these different platforms.
Yeah.
Integrate it all.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the story of computer software is they always create a dozen different ways to do this, basically the same thing, and that does get confusing. So my philosophy is pick something that more or less does what you need it to do. If you find a pain point, like if you find yourself kind of waking up in the morning going, gosh, I wish Microsoft Teams really would do XYZ, and you find something else that does XYZ, then maybe you'd want to switch. But if it's not, if it's not a pain point, you can stick with it. Google Meet, some of the functionality is going to go away in in October. I think September 30th is the last day for things like recording meetings, which might be a big deal, and some other items. Meet will still be available, but the history is Meet was originally. Remember, I mentioned that paid tier of G Suite for Education Enterprise, where you get all the unlimited originality checking. Well, you also get you used to also get Google Meet with that. The G Suite for Education that we have, Meet wasn't even an option. Then the shelter in place started happening, and Google made it available. And then a few weeks in, they probably realized, boy, I don't think we can take this away from people. Now they're going to really complain. So now their strategy is to add features, make those available to the paid version only, and keep the bare bones one available. So Meet's probably going to have, because we're paying for that, Meet's probably going to have a little more functionality, or I'm sorry, Teams is probably going to have a little more functionality. Meet's going to be integrated right in there though. So, you've got that classroom link right there. If that's suiting your needs and you don't need to record it or do some of the other things that are going to go away, then by all means use that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You bet. Who's got a question?
Sam, this is Cindy. I have a question for you.
Hi.
Hi. How effective is Google Classroom for kids that are like at kindergarten, first grade? They really don't have a lot of reading skills, maybe just very emergent writing skills. Because I know like at my host site, Google Classroom tends to be used for grades 3 and up.
Mhm.
I don't know what your thoughts are on using this for the younger students.
Yeah. Typically, I think what I've seen is second grade or third grade and up. My kids started using it in second grade, but they didn't see it first grade or kindergarten at all. And because there is some reading involved. I can't really speak to that. I don't have any experience in that area. Typically, yeah, it's not really used for the youngsters who are still learning how to read.
Thank you.
Hi, Sam. It's Kathy again. I have one more question.
Sure.
On Canvas, you said earlier that Google Classroom can feed into Aries. Can Canvas feed into Aries?
Theoretically, it's possible. We don't have that set up right now. And actually, I think it would go the other way. I think Aries would go into Canvas. Oh no, wait! It would probably be bidirectional. So like some of the data would be coming from Aries into Canvas, like say like rosters and courses and things like that. And then probably you'd want to pull, assuming you were grading in Canvas, you'd probably want to pull that stuff from Canvas to the Aries gradebook.
Right.
All of those things are possible. They're not currently set up just because there hasn't been much of a pull in that direction up to this point. But if we start seeing that as being something people really, really want, and enough people really, really want, we can start investing some time and resources into integrating those two.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Who's got a question? We got a few minutes left.
If there's no other questions, I did put the survey response or surveys in the bottom in the chat for people to go ahead and answer the surveys for your attendance in there. So. Yeah, also, yeah, making sure my mic was on. Also,
The last slide of the presentation has some resources. Maybe I could spend a minute talking about that. Let me share my screen again. Share screen 3. Bring my presentation back. So G Suite for Education, we've got product guides here. This is really an in-depth, bring that over here, in-depth documentation for all of the G Suite apps. So basically it's the instruction manual. So that's a good first place to look if you want to learn more. Google offers certification training courses. I highly recommend, especially if you see yourself using this stuff a lot, exploring the possibility of getting a G Suite certification. If you get like a level 1 certification, the training's free, and then you pay to take a test, and they certify you if you pass the test. Basically, if you go through that process, you will really know your stuff, and you know, that's about as thorough a training as you can get for that. Zoom tips and tricks for teachers. This is by Zoom. I know probably you're not using Zoom very much, but it's a very handy set of documents. For some reason, I can't find it. Where'd it go? No, I can't find it. It also applies to any video conferencing. And then finally, Alice Keeler. This is her Twitter handle and her website. She is the Google Docs guru for education. I don't know if she's still teaching, but she was a teacher who just learned all this stuff and came up with tons and tons and tons of great ideas. And by the way, if you're not on Twitter, I highly recommend that, because that is a gold mine of resources for teachers in general. Let's see, I want to stop my sharing there. Okay. We got a quick few minutes if anyone else has another question or comment. All right, so I guess we would just want to call it at this point. Well, I'll thank everybody for joining me, and if you have any questions, you can always contact me through email or what have you, and I look forward to hearing your questions and hearing about your experiences using Classroom and Meet, and you know, providing you any support that I can. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sam, for your time. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, please remember to take the survey before you leave.